Hi, Matt. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Oh, wow, I see Lost in the Dream back. Is that Slave Ambient or Lost in the Dream?
That's Lost in the Dream. Yeah, I thought I always try and put an album back there that kind of has some rough connection to whoever owns it.
Amazing. That's a great idea. Well, I also see Joshua Tree, isn't it?
Yeah, that's actually
Print.
it's a lithograph, and it's signed by Anton Corbijn.
Oh, wow.
Who took the picture.
Yeah, he did all the photos for that album. Well, many albums, but yeah, he did Octung Baby as well.
Yeah. I'm actually a photographer, and he's one of the first people that inspired me to really take photography seriously. So
he's amazing. Incredible.
Excellent. So what have you got on the walls behind you?
Well, that's my bathroom. But that's Grateful Dead, and this show, we did a show with Air and at the Greek Theater. So that's just
nice.
Yeah, that was a sweet one. I don't know. I've got all kinds of crap up here. Picture Crisanta and the band. Maybe this David Bowie. These David Bowie pictures. Got a Bob Dylan picture up there. And what else? Picture of me after the first show we ever played. So,
really?
Seen live at Nassau Coliseum. Stuff like that. Same stuff.
No, it's important to get good stuff on the walls, I think. I think I've got too many things I haven't got enough walls for the amount of things that I want to put on the walls.
Yeah, exactly.
So, congratulations on this new record. I'm a big fan.
Oh, thank you.
So the album's been out. It took a while to get it out, but it's finally out. How's the reaction been from your point of view to the album since it's dropped?
I mean, from what I can tell, great. I think that the most important thing for us is that the fans have embraced it. So it's beautiful seeing fans that were there at the first record that have come back, because we know it was a long time, and we know that it wasn't, the 2-year normalcy of putting a record out every 2 years. It just didn't work that way for us, unfortunately, even though we wanted it to. That was the plan. So it's just great to see the fans embracing it.
Yeah. So obviously, you started writing this record, I think back in 2018, right?
18. Yeah. Started. 18. Exactly.
How do you think the record has benefited from having such a long time to kind of finally get it out? Like, I guess the idea would have been to get it out maybe a couple of years ago.
Well, yeah. There was a record.
Extra time has helped.
Yeah, definitely. And there was a version of this record that was done in January 2020. And at that moment, it seemed pretty obvious that we were going to part ways with the label. And we didn't really feel like, I guess thinking back on it, I mean, not knowing the pandemic was right around the corner at that time as well. So there was definitely a version of this album that was finished, and then the pandemic hit, and it kind of gave us a new perspective being out of that record contract and just having some more time to think about, where we're at and what kind of record, where the record could benefit. I think it was pretty obvious that putting a record out right before the pandemic was probably, even though everyone was like, oh, that's going to be 3 weeks, I'm really glad that we didn't do that, because there was just no way to promote it, and the record itself definitely benefited. I mean, songs like Digging Up the Dead and Stop and Modern Life probably wouldn't have been on the record in the way they were had it not been, and even Carried Away had it not been for the time that we had during the pandemic to work on it.
From what I know about you, I feel like you sometimes maybe suffer from being a bit of a perfectionist. Would I be right?
Yeah, I don't know if I would call myself a perfectionist, because I've finally come to realize that the imperfections are something that I should get better at embracing. So I'm trying to let the imperfections. Sometimes I have a tendency to overthink, instead of feeling like, oh, it has to be perfect. I have a tendency to kind of doubt myself when it comes to the finished product, or the writing. A lot of the times it's just the writing, you know? I mean, like we were just talking about before we started, it's like when I think about great songs, I'm looking at the Joshua Tree and I'm looking at Bowie and Bruce and Adam and the drum. It's like, so there's this constant level of like, is it right? Is it good enough? Is it, you know, is it the smart? I don't know. Is it as good as it can be? And so, but I don't think I'll ever get it to be perfect, you know? And I think that that's kind of the best part about being an artist is like, I'm already thinking about album 3, you know, it's already happening. It's just never stops. And I think that if we stop thinking about it like that, then there's just no reason to make art. I mean, like you said, you know, getting into photography or whatever it is, if you're not willing to continue to just accept the fact that you're on a path, there's no real reason to be continued to do this, because that means that you're inspired to keep pushing, you know?
Yeah, sometimes done is better than perfect.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't know if any artist, like we can call ourselves perfectionists, but the end of the day, every artist is pretty positive that they've never made anything perfect. And if you think that you've made something perfect, then yeah, I don't know. Then maybe it's not, this isn't the right thing for you.
Yeah,
right.
I think if you think you've made something perfect, A, you're probably wrong, and B, it's probably downhill from that point.
Yeah, exactly. It's making something perfect is a lot different than being proud of your work, you know? And so I think and when you're in the record making process, it's very hard to be proud of what you're doing because you're constantly analyzing it. It's like, I remember saying to the guys when the record finally was on Spotify, listening to it on Spotify felt completely different than when it's in my Dropbox and I'm searching for tracks. It's like, it felt like, oh, okay, we captured a moment in time. That's what we were doing at that moment in time. And this is the way we expressed ourselves. Does that mean that it's perfect or imperfect or not right? No, but it is. And it lives in that way. And I'm proud of it. And if you can walk away being proud of it, that means that you've kind of labored over the things that are worth laboring over. You've spent the time to say, is this the best representation at this moment of my art and of what I'm trying to say and of the expression I'm trying to get through? And if you can be happy with it, then great. You know, I mean, you're always going to listen to a mix and be like, I wish snare drum was louder. I wish it had more reverb on it, or I wish my vocal sounded better. But that's normal if you're an artist. I mean, I think that's part of the job.
Yeah. So you touched earlier on the subject of embracing the imperfections, and there's a bit of a theme in this album to that. And I think one of maybe the positive things that's come out of this last 2 years is people appreciating what they've already got rather than striving for the next thing and trying to improve all the time. So do you in some ways this would have been a great soundtrack to the pandemic, but obviously that was never the case. How do you feel about people listening to it with that kind of state of mind?
I feel good about it. And I also have come to the conclusion that the paradigm shift that the global pandemic has made for everybody, everyone's view now of the world or of our world is through the lens of having to deal with a 2-year, 3-year ongoing global pandemic. So I've accepted the fact that everyone's going to have that filter when they're listening to the music. And so whether or not I wrote it, a lot of these songs were written way before the pandemic, but the fact that you can listen to it and say, oh, this relates to the pandemic, I think that's just because everyone's worldview and paradigm has shifted to seeing the world post, pre, and during a global pandemic. It's been kind of shocking. We've all had to kind of readjust the way we think about life and the way we look at things. And so I kind of see that as a positive, because it means that we as a band were reflecting on something that was purely emotional. It's like so now it's now the worldview has changed and people are seeing it in an emotional way through through this new way we see life, which, yeah, bizarre or not, I mean, I just think that we've come to accept that. But when everyone's like, oh, is this a pandemic record? Well, no, it's not a pandemic record, but everything's a pandemic record now. I mean, I think, at least, the music that I tend to gravitate towards is music that is highly emotional, and I think that if you're in a heightened state of, heightened emotional state, you're going to hear music in a very you're going to have a real reverence to what that is. And now when I listen to music, I relate it to my life. And I think that's what we're supposed to be doing.
Absolutely. Are you the kind of person that generally listens to an album front to back?
Yeah, unless I've entered into an album, unless there's a single that I'm just super obsessed with, I'll just keep, listen to that over and over again. But if there's anything that comes out from, well, I think it's just that bands, right, or artists. I mean, not everybody is making art for the album format. I mean, look, it's a lost format when it comes to the way it's being consumed in culture. It's just not being consumed the way I think it should, or the way it has in the past. That's just bottom line. I mean, there's nothing, we can't do anything about that, so, but do I have a reverence for listening to albums front to back? And do I look at the artists that I know are thinking about it like that? Yeah. I know that when a War on Drugs record comes out, there's a reason that Living Proof is the first song on the new record. It's I know that he's thinking about that. I know that they're thinking about that. Or, even, I mean, yeah, anybody, I know Arcade Fire is doing this. I know that bands that have a reverence for trying to make records and statements are thinking about that. So I think out of respect for those artists, it's my duty to kind of listen to it from front to back.
So is that something that you pay attention to with your own records, is the sequencing? Oh,
yeah. And sequencing is a massive moment of contention for everyone, because the sequencing is the one thing. I mean, we don't really have a lot of butting heads when it comes to making the records. There's always one person in the band saying, I think it should be this way, and I'm saying, no, it should be this way. And there's always that. But there's always a contentious moment when we go through the process of sequencing, and it's an arduous process. It's always a thing. It's always a thing. And I admit that I took the reins on the first record in a very, very heavy-handed way, even though everyone was anti a few of my choices, and probably should have let them in. I think they were right on a few. I was too close. I was probably the closest to that record, and so this record, I was like, all right, let's sit down and really think about this as a team. So I'm glad we did. I think the sequencing is much better on this record. So
yeah, I think it flows really, really well. So when somebody gets to the end of this record, assuming that they've sat and listened to it properly in order, how do you want them to feel at the end of the record?
Well, Stop, the last song on the record, Stop, is supposed to leave you with a hopeful feeling of, I think we closed the record with that because I liked the statement that it was making for the band. There was an idea that as a band, as a unit, are we ever going to be enough? Is it ever going to be enough? There was a process of making this record. Like every band's second record, it's supposed to be difficult. And it was. I mean, there's just no lie. It was a difficult record to make. Not just everything that happened and everything around the record and how we got into the record. And so I felt like leaving with a hopeful, is it ever going to be enough for us? There was something that put a period on it. And to be honest, it kind of answers the question in the music. I mean, it ends in this very hopeful way. It is going to be enough. This work of art, this thing that we've made, this collective artistic statement or record, or four of us being in a room together and committing to that is enough. It is enough. And that's enough for a lot of people, you know, like your relationship to the world and your friends and your, you know, significant others, like that's kind of the most important thing, just that pure emotional connection. And I think that song left us feeling like, yeah, it is going to be enough. You know, we have each other, we have this band, we have this record, we have this thing, and we'll go out and play it. So that was like the overarching idea of releasing Stop as the last song on the record. Felt like it was answering a lot of the questions.
Yeah. So when you're recording, are you thinking about how these songs are going to play live? I know you're just about to finally get back out on the road for real. And do the songs change much in a live environment for you?
On the first record, we discovered that we were going to be leaning into our guitars way more than we did in the studio, and so we definitely like had to transform some of those songs on the first record for the live, for live. And I'm very excited to do that on this record. And these songs were built with the live show in mind. Just maybe not like, we were just thinking about it like, hey, can you play that, Sterling? Santa, can you play that? Should I just play acoustic guitar? You know, it was a very much like a band making a record. And on the first record, we didn't have Sterling on the first record, our drummer. We met him towards the end of the record, and it was a different process. It was a little bit more like manufactured band, even though, you know, we played everything on the record. But this time around, it was very much like, let's feel the air moving and see what it feels like. And I think that because of that, this record especially will have a second life. Like I know that, and I know the first record had a second life, and I'm really curious to see what happens by the time we get to the end of this campaign. You know, I could see Stop going on for 10 minutes. You know, I can see Dream Never Dies going on for 10 minutes. I can just see the Raincoats. You know, I can see where we can lengthen it. And I can see where we can, you know, have some more fun.
Yeah, for sure. Now, one of the questions I ask a lot of bands is if they could pick like their dream artist to go on tour with, who would it be? But looking at the bands that you've already opened for, I feel like you've already checked a few off and you're about to check off another one.
Yeah.
With the war on drugs. Am I right in saying
Oh,
that?
yeah, 100%. I mean, we've been super lucky to be able to play with some of these bands. I mean, you know, the craziest thing about, especially a band like the Drugs, you know, going out, we leave on Monday for their, you know, we're supporting them all through Europe and the UK, and it's going to be some more dates coming. But just being able to, like, just, we've seen them so many times and we've, you know, become brothers with those guys. But just, they just level up every time. I mean, and like being able to witness that every night, you just learn something, you pick something up about the way it works, about the way things develop live, and they're just, yeah, there's no way for that doesn't seep in, being able to watch that happen every night. And there's so many that we've been so lucky to support some of the most amazing bands out there, really.
Yeah, because on my list here, you supported Ride.
Yep, Ride was a bizarre one, and Andy Bell is like the best dude on the planet. I love Andy. Oh my god. And
then Phoenix, London Grammar.
Yep.
Like quite different bands, but they all seem perfect for you to be on the road with.
Yeah, it's all been really beautiful.
And you touched on Arcade Fire, really. Are you a fan of Arcade Fire?
Yeah, I just saw them in the reason I'm on the Arcade Fire tip. I just saw them play like their secret show in New Orleans. I was down there.
Oh, no way, you were at that?
Yeah, I was there for the first night, which was like a super friends and family. I got invited through a friend who works with them, and like I would just happen to be down there at the same time. And so I forgot, because they've been gone for a while, I forgot how great they are live. And I got to, I mean, there was probably 250 people there. It was the tiniest club ever, and it was awesome. So I'm on the Arcade Fire tip right now.
Yeah.
But the suburbs, I mean, Neon Bible, I remember I had friends that were so into it, and I was really into it. But the Suburbs like changed my idea of what an indie rock band could make as like a piece of talking about full albums, right? It's like,
yeah,
that's a full statement. So
I just wanted to quickly touch on a bit of your music taste from the past. Is there one band or one record that made you take music more seriously?
Spirit of Eden by Talk Talk definitely changed my entire perspective of the way music could work, you know, the space, the atmosphere, Mark's phrasing, the idea that you can pack so much emotion into a piece of art in so many different ways. And it's weird, you know, it's so modern sounding, that record, to me still. Like when I put that record on now, I'm like, man, it's so modern. Like it's just so, there's huge huge washes of oceanic moments, and the dynamics, just everything about it made me realize that there was a whole nother world out there when it came to making records and music. And I guess I just dove in and tried to learn as much as I could from that. And I think it's one of those records that you just never stop learning from.
Yeah.
Ever.
Are you a band that ever does cover versions?
Covers?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did over the pandemic, actually, we kind of got into doing some covers. We did Planet Caravan, the Black Sabbath cover.
Wow.
We did what else? We did Playground Love by Air. They're all up on YouTube. Like we just like basically were in isolation and just started filming ourselves making these covers. It was actually really fun.
Okay, I'm going to check those out. I haven't seen
that. They're part of we have this newsletter called Raincoat Chronicles. That's a fan-based newsletter, and they were going out. We just sent them out to everybody who is a subscriber of that pretty much every month over the pandemic. And then we would interview an artist. We interviewed Adam from the War on Drugs and Logan from Dear White People, the Netflix show. Like it was cool. We had a lot of fun doing it. So that was kind of our foray into covers, and I think we'll end up bringing that back at some point, doing more of those.
Yeah. So since you've been more of an independent band, has the community side kind of taken on a new meaning for you?
100%. We're just so dialed into the fact that it's ours now, and there's this group of people that love what we do, and that's the most important thing for any band, really.
And what about new bands? Do you pay attention to what's going on out there?
Oh yeah, definitely. There's a lot of new bands. I love that band. Squid, is that what they're called? Squid.
Yeah, they're going to be here soon as well.
They are. I think they're awesome. Oh my God, so many. I think Wet Leg is doing something really interesting. It's cool that people are paying attention to that. Bartees Strange, who I think he's great. I mean, there's so many. I could go on and on. They're not really new, but like someone that's really inspiring is that band Idols. I just think they're just so inspiring. I mean, Fontaine's DC, but what's going on is a lot of this is happening out of the UK. I don't really know where the scene is in America. Maybe I'm just not seeing it. I don't know. It seems very, very fertile in the UK right now.
Yeah, it definitely is. Have you heard of Dry Cleaning?
They're UK as well.
Yeah, and
I think they're great.
Yard
Act are UK too. I mean, all these bands.
Yeah. Well, I'm in Montreal, but I'm obviously from the UK, so it's exciting.
Yeah. No, I know. It's like it's interesting.
So what's next for you? You've got this tour, then you've got the North American tour. Have you planned further ahead of that?
I think there's some festivals after that, and then every time we get time off, we'll just be working on our record.
Well, I'm excited to see you in Montreal.
Oh, I can't wait.
I'll come and say hi.
That'd be great.
But have an amazing time with the War on Drugs.
Thank you.
Like you say, I'm sure every night's going to be just an experience.
It is.
So safe travels, and thanks very much for spending some time chatting with me.
Thank you, man. Really appreciate it.
All right. You take care.
All right, have a good one.